Hello and welcome to this special series of episodes called 29 Days of Magic. During Black History Month, the month of February, I'll be interviewing a Black woman a day who's from business and entrepreneurship. You name it, I'm going to have a chat with her. The idea for this is to show off the amazingness of Black women throughout various industries. I hope you take a listen, like, share, review, and be inspired by these incredible stories. Take a listen. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, CEO of the cultural communications agency, D-Flash. Each episode, I bring in an awesome business leader who's doing some game-changing work. And this episode is no different. I'm super excited to have Susanna Woodley, who is the head of membership at Soho Works. And they are our incredible sponsors of our 29 Days of Magic campaign. So I'm super psyched to have a conversation with Susanna. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Susanna.
Hi.
Like I don't know you.
I know.
Full disclosure, Susanna's a friend.
Weird. You know way too much, Laura. You know way too much.
That's okay. You buy me alcohol, so I keep quiet. It's all good. So even though you and I are friends and your amazing company is sponsoring the podcast, nothing changes. So the first question remains the same. So Susanna, what was your first job?
My first job. Okay, well, is this like my first job in terms of for free? Like I didn't get a paycheck, or my first job when I actually got like a paycheck?
It can be either or, whichever one kind of pops into your head.
I mean, I consider my first job, which my father paid me, was to be his assistant in his office. He was director of engineering for a hospital in Manhattan on 135th, which used to be called Flower Hospital, nicknamed Flower on 5th. And it's also where I was born. I was born in that hospital, and he worked there for 40 years. And so they used to have this youth program, and I always wanted to like apply for it, but children of employees were exempt from applying for it. So my father said, I'll pay you out of my pocket and you could be our assistant in the office. So I guess that's like one of my first jobs.
And what did you learn?
I was young. How old was I? I think I was around 13 or 14. And I was actually still going to summer camp. So this was something that I did before I went to summer camp upstate. And then I would miraculously still have the job when I came back.
Magically, just magically.
Magically. So that's like my first job. Learning the importance of a dollar and learning to save money and, knowing the worth of a dollar and, what you get from hard work. So yeah, that was my first job.
That's a good one. And because it gave you a good setup to where you are now, where it's like, making sure that you value your work and helping to build community. So like, it all works out.
I don't know about the building community aspect of it that early on at that age, but definitely having a good work ethic for sure. And just being exposed to that at a young age. Because both of my parents were professionals in their field. I've never, which is really interesting when you think about our parents and their work ethic, especially if they are not American. I'm first generation American and they're not. So I feel like when you come to this country, you just feel like you have something to prove. And I just think that was their mindset. So really solid work ethic for sure.
Which is, that's, just a first gen thing that we all have, where it's like you saw the work that your parents did and it means more to you to do well because you saw what your parents did to like make sure that you were taken care of. So correct. Yeah. And you take pride in everything you do. So, it totally tracks. So, okay. So we go from being your dad's special assistant to now at Soho Works. What was that career journey like?
Definitely kind of an interesting journey, only in the sense that when I kind of line up the dots of my previous jobs, they've all had a community aspect to it, even though the times were different from where I started. So if I'm looking back at when I worked in a World Trade Center, which started out as a part-time job, that turned into a full-time job when the VP of sales kind of plucked me from the reception team and said, you know, you have such a great rapport with our clientele and you're just really effortless at selling. I don't even think you realize that you're selling. And she created a position for me, which was a role that she was thinking about for a long time, which was kind of focusing on retention of memberships and programming and services. And this was a company called the Fitness Company that had health clubs across the Eastern Seaboard. So New York, DC, New Jersey, Connecticut, and the fitness company that I worked at, the club that I worked at was in the World Trade Center. And so I was with them for 5 years and I was their membership sales coordinator. And then that turned into a full on membership advisor role. And it was a really interesting place to be because the majority of that clientele were men, because again, it's the World Trade Center. So you're thinking of the brokers, you're thinking of finance, bankers, and the like. And this was a beautiful, you know, panoramic view club where the towels were warm before you even heard of such a thing. And your locker room had views of Statue of Liberty and the river. And, you know, every December we would see the tree coming up the barge up the river for Rockefeller Center. We always knew when it was Fleet Week when the ships would roll into town. It was just a really amazing experience to work at a club of that caliber, not knowing that those type of clubs existed. And then the same VP who left the organization to become a director of sales for Reebok Sports Club New York, which was part of the sports club company brand at the time, which was the you know club to belong to. You know,
yes, the club.
Yeah, you have to remember. I mean, this club was 140,000 square feet with 8 floors, with a 40-foot rock climbing wall, a junior Olympic sized pool, dry cleaning services, a bar and a restaurant, childcare services, Paul Lebrecht Salon and Spa, and a little over 9,500 members. And they were about to expand, and they were going to open up 5 more luxury clubs in a 2-year period. So they were really looking for good people. And she, you know, left the fitness company, went to work for that company, and slowly but surely she started to reach out, and she snapped 2 of us up from the fitness company, stole us, so to speak. And I took an operational role because I felt like, you know, selling was so natural to me that I wanted to know a little bit more about operations. And there was a management role that was available. And so I had interviewed for that role. I received it. And then after 3 years in, I decided to go back into sales when a director role became available. I remember before interviewing for that role, you know, again, we were opening up the luxury clubs in Boston in connection to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. We were opening up the one in Miami in connection to the Miami Four Seasons. We were opening one in DC, which was connected to the Ritz-Carlton. We were opening one on 61st and First in Manhattan, which used to be the old Vertical Club. So they were taking that over. And then the one at Rockefeller Center, which was going to overlook the ice skating rink, and then Beverly Hills on Wilshire, and then another location in San Francisco that was connected to the Four Seasons. And so I was able to travel to a lot of different properties before they opened to train my counterpart.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was just, for me, you know, just being someone in her 20s and just kind of having that experience was pretty awesome. And again, like having like the preview week, like the first day would be welcoming the press. The second day would be welcoming, the high profile celebrities. I mean, we would have anyone from Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal. We would have, different actors. We had a lot of soap opera actors at Reebok because it was right across from ABC Studios. We would have Boris Kodjoe. We'd have Mark Wahlberg. We'd have just so many, high profile members that after a while, it just became one of these things that, you just blink your eye, like they're just, another person. But it also gave you some awareness, I think, as well as how to treat people, regardless of the level that that person's in. At the end of the day, they're just a human being, and you treat people the way you'd want to be treated. But anyway, I digress. So that was my time with the sports club company. I became their director of membership at the Reebok Sports Club location. So I was with that company for 8 full years, got a little burnt out, and I ended up being poached by Clay, which was a minimalist high-end spa and club on 14th Street that coincidentally was founded by a member of Reebok Sports Club New York.
Really? I had no idea.
Her husband, she's a very wealthy woman due to her husband, and he just wanted to make her happy, and she secured a 25,000 square foot space, and it was just sunken lounge with a fireplace and roof deck and showers with sunlight, and everything was just white on white on white. And we're in the 2000s now, and this is a time where people are getting a little bit more niche with their nutrition and their health and their wellness routine. And she really wanted to create something unique where every single member had access to a plan that was just personalized for them. And the membership director would be like their guru, so these are your goals, but I'm going to set you up with this trainer because you just had a baby. You're coming out of that. It's postnatal training. I think you should also try Pilates. I'm going to set you up with this Pilates instructor. I think that you need to work on your nutrition. I'm going to set you up with this nutritionist, and I'm also going to recommend a massage therapist for deep tissue. So it was a whole program. Like, you really became like their go-to person. So that was a fun place to work. It was also kind of like a pint size, Reebok Sports Club New York. So I went from 140,000 square feet with over 9,500 members to 25,000 square feet with a little over 1,600 members. And one of the things that I did with that company was business development and partnerships. And I had learned about a private club that was on 14th Street between 7th and 8th through one of our members at the time. And I figured, this would be a really good partnership because I felt like the community at that private club, number one, were in the demographic in terms of being able to afford a club membership like Clay. But also the Clay members were creatives in their own right. John Legend was a member.
Oh, wow.
Susanna was a member. Yeah. I mean, like
I used to pass that gym all the time, and I never knew anything that was going on. It was just so in the street, like on a street where you just like walk by and go by Sam Ash and keep it moving.
And you keep it moving. Yeah, absolutely. Grace Coddington, Phyllis Posnick of Vogue. I mean, you had like the whole Vogue editor crew that were members there. It was just a really good hideaway. It was convenient for people to get to who worked downtown, worked in Soho, or lived in the Village, or lived in Chelsea, but also gave them a good little like hideaway spot. These were members who did not want to be in like an Equinox setting, and they definitely didn't want to be in a Crunch setting, and they wanted to really feel good about themselves. and just not have any prying eyes. That's why, the sidewalk was the entrance, but you didn't see anything within the club until you got upstairs and you were elevated. But yeah, it was a really interesting place. And, when I had um, contacted the director at Norwood and talked about, ways that we could partner up, we started off with we used to have these summer member cocktail parties on our roof deck. And so we worked with Norwood to have them cater the cocktail parties and made sure that the members knew where obviously this amazing food and service was coming from. And then vice versa, we would then do some programming on site at the private club. They had this beautiful screening room that once you remove the furniture, you could really turn it into anything. And we used to create these really beautiful projections on the screen and do yoga in their screening room on a Saturday before they opened, for their members. And so it was a really good relationship, kind of coming up with different programming ideas. And then after a while, as we knew what would happen, Clay members wanted to learn more about Norwood. They ended up joining, applying for membership and becoming members there. And then, we created preferred rates for Norwood members. They ended up joining Clay and having memberships. And, what could be better? You go to work, you go to Clay to work out, and then you literally skip down the block and go to Norwood and have a cocktail and dinner. It was just really an amazing brainchild of an idea. And slowly but surely, what happened with Norwood is that the director ended up, who was also a founder of Norwood and an investor, she had to move back to the UK to take care of her ailing parents. And I don't do British accents well, but I just remember her saying I really, really am going to miss this place.
No, boy. Decent, Susanna, decent one.
And I really want to make sure that my people are taken care of.
Right, indeed. Right.
Right. Here's a spot of tea. Let's talk. And she basically asked me if I would take over when she left. She basically offered me a job.
You're like, wait, hold on.
I'm like, wait, what?
Watch me getting approached yet again.
Yeah. And it was insane. So I really thought about it, and some advice that was given to me during this thought process was, if it makes you scared, you should do it. Yeah, you're familiar with health and wellness and sales, but this is definitely out of your realm. This is, a private arts club. You're going to be meeting a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, managing a lot of different personalities, and you're going to throw alcohol into the mix. You're going to be around that all the time. And you have to interview, prospective members. You have to propose to the committee as to why they should be members. I mean, you are going to be able to curate an entire community on 14th Street. And you're a Black woman on top of that. You should do it. If it makes you scared, you should do it. And I thought about it and it made me scared. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try it. And, anyone who has belonged to a private club, whether it's a Soho House or Groucho or, Norwood, there are many, clubs around the world, but what made Norwood really unique at that time was the fact that it was in this beautiful 1860s landmark townhouse with all the original flooring and original stairs. And, it used to be, it was built for Andrew Norwood. And then it was, before it was built for Andrew Norwood, it was a funeral home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a home during the suffrage era as well for women who needed to room and board. And then it was a funeral home. So it was the suffrage part, and then it was a funeral home. And then it was purchased for Andrew Norwood, and it became the Andrew Norwood House. And it was landmarked, and it just stayed that way. And 5 floors of just a lot of creativity. You had writers, you had filmmakers, you had actors, you had models, you had members in advertising, digital marketing. And it was just an interesting shift as well, because you had the rise of WeWork that was also happening around that time, and people also getting into startups, and they were practicing, lawyers for maybe 10 years, and they were like, you know what, that was never my love. That was something that my parents wanted me to do. I think it's time for me to be in fashion, which was always like your first love, you know what I mean? So you definitely
Mm-hmm.
had like an alchemy of individuals, and it was really amazing to be able to like to pick and choose. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have too many head cases that
Mm-hmm.
would, really change the community. And then you also had to have a balance and check system. Any private club that's on the creative side that says that they never have, people from finance, they're lying, because there is no art without commerce. And it's just making sure you have the right finance people, so even if I met someone who was in finance, you can tell if they were a douche versus someone that you met who was in finance that was an art collector that was always looking for emerging artists, or they were funding, their friend's documentary or film project, individuals who wanted to kind of like give back to creatives and help them on the business side, which, as you know, with creatives, they think more about the creative aspect of their job, but they don't really think more about the business side of their job so that they can sustain their art. And I found that having some members that were willing to give back to our community in that way to be extremely helpful. And that's how you just did like the checks and balances. But yeah, it was five and a half years at Norwood. And it was a crazy time.
Awesome. And then what made you decide to come to SohoWorks? So we love the space. I'm looking
So
around right now, and like we're in our your kind of beautiful podcasting room. It's just it feels so welcoming, especially when we're in this really crazy time of COVID. It's been a nice refuge to escape out of my apartment and look out a different window.
yeah, it's definitely it wasn't SoulWorks wasn't on my radar. Honestly, after I left Norwood, I worked for this co-working, co-living space called The Assemblage for 2 years. And the pandemic really rocked that company to its core, as well as the founder passing away, unfortunately. And just like everyone else, you're at a standstill. I was laid off, like everyone else, quarantined in New York, and not really understanding what the next move would be. So I think like April, I quarantined. May, I did yoga once. June, I drank the wine. And then by
I love the steps. I drank all the wine and
yeah, I think everybody has quarantine steps. They just really haven't thought out what they were. But yeah, those were my steps. And I said, okay, let me, just tap into my network and see what's out there. Because with the pandemic, you don't really know how businesses are doing, and you just hear a lot of, flight stories that were happening in New York. I had connected with the managing director of North America of Soho House in 2018 when I left Norwood, and it was an introduction from a former colleague of mine. And while nothing panned out from that meeting, I still had his email address. And I said, well, let me just email him and let him know what I've been up to. And he replied, like, literally within 3 hours, I think, of that. Like, so the same day. And
wow.
yeah, and he was like, we should talk. Let's set up a Zoom. And I found out about the vertical arm of a company called SohoWorks that they were developing, which is, these international network of workspaces, where it still has kind of like the Soho House ethos, but it was definitely designed and equipped for members with, solo businesses or small businesses to connect and grow, and also to be very different from the house itself, because the house, all the Soho houses, there's like 28 Soho houses around the world. those were supposed to be social spaces, and slowly they were becoming workspaces where people were camping out, or members were camping out, like at the bar with their laptop, and it's like 6 p.m. They've only had coffee, and members are coming in to enjoy themselves and have a glass of wine, and it's just wasn't really a good look. The founder of Soho House decided to launch Soho Works so that members of Soho House had a space that they can come to and actually get work done. And the furniture is ergonomic, and there's ports and outlets and everywhere. And more importantly, you can talk on your phones.
Right. Take photos.
You can take photos, you can film. I mean, like, it really is set up as a space for people to actually work and not get chastised for, talking on their phones or what have you. And that is what was interesting to me, because honestly, I didn't want to go back to a private club after working at the assemblage for 2 years and learning more about co-working and curating communities in that way and connecting members in that kind of, setting, which really I felt gave me a little bit more of a purpose. And I definitely did not want to go back to like getting off work like at 1 a.m.,
You're like, no.
Yeah, and drinking wine like all the time. Like, I left Norwood and I dropped literally like 20 pounds within like the first 3 months for my departure, so that's how I knew, like, wow, I didn't realize that I had kind of like was not taking good care of myself. So Soho Works was really the best of both worlds, because it does have some members that are Soho House members, but anybody can join Soho Works. It is open to non-members, and I really love that they were trying to go with that. There's no committee process. I get to meet individuals that live in the area. The one that I oversee is in Dumbo, and Brooklyn, as you know, is such a culturally rich borough, just a really nice hub of tech and design and creative thinkers and innovators. And it's just great that we're saying, if you are of that ilk, then you should definitely belong. And then I get to kind of like introduce people. And again, I'm curating a community here, just for a different company, in a different setting, in a different way.
Awesome. And again, I might be a touch biased, but you've been doing a wonderful job of like connecting me with really great folks who are in the space.
Thank you.
Curating awesome programming. Like, we did a whole great chat with this guy from Squire. We did a great one with wellness and dark beauty and BAL. So, I think, especially at this time when everyone's kind of like, what do I do? Oh my God. Like, how do I meet new people? Building new communities like the one that you're fostering at Soho Works has been refreshing and nicely diverse to see. I always think of communities that, like, it is when you fill it with people that you didn't know you needed to know, and everyone's chill, because you can meet people who you didn't know you needed to know, but they're kind of jerks. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I can take this or leave it. Or you can meet people I didn't know, and they're just great folks. And so, it's been a pleasure watching, how that's been able to span out in really neat and like surprisingly wonderful ways. We're so excited to have Soho Works as the sponsor for the 29 Days of Magic campaign. They're designed by Soho House, and they're workspaces to help creative thinkers, businesses small and large, connect, collaborate, and grow. And it's where I'm recording all the episodes of 29 Days of Magic. It's a safe, wonderful, and collaborative experience. I'm currently in the Brooklyn location, but they have locations, one else in New York City, in the Meatpacking District, one in LA, 5 in the UK, and they give you that kind of home away from home feeling with all the tools, technology, equipment to help you do your best work. Like I said, it's an amazing location, feels safe. I've been able to meet some really awesome people, which you haven't been able to do a lot because of the fact of COVID. So it's been a wonderful experience being able to record here and help build community. So if you want to find out more information about it, please go to sohoworks.com to get more information, and tell them I sent you. And now back to the show. So I'm sure along the way, you've had lots of challenges in your career. Take us back to a moment where you're like, I'm never going to get out of this. And then you did.
I mean, challenges, smallenges.
Challenges.
There's different types of challenges. I think when you're dealing with people, when you are in member service, it is you're definitely challenged by personalities, and strong ones if alcohol is involved. And I definitely had some interesting moments at Norwood, because when you imbibe, that's when the real you kind of, comes forth. So without, I don't know if I have a specific challenge though. I think, right now is a challenge. Let's just use today. Today is a hell of a challenge, Laura. Like I mentioned earlier, selling has always been very organic for me, and I've been grateful to have positions in my career that really allows me to use my personality in such a seamless and effortless way that a client or a member feels comfortable with me to say, yeah, let's take over this office, or yes, like let's bring my whole team here, or yes, I want to host this program with you. I think that's an amazing. And it's often, one member actually said the other day, to my colleague, was that all she did was walk in for a tour and she left with a dedicated desk and conference rooms, and she was never like even planning on joining, but it was just through an organic conversation we had. And so I think the challenge right now is, all of the tools that I use in my toolbox have not made much of a dent that they normally would in a pre-pandemic season, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I am constantly being challenged by, the state of the world right now, and the decision makers not really making decisions because they don't know if it's the right time, to offer this kind of membership or service to their employees, or, they don't want to make a commitment because of the pandemic, or, their employees have enjoyed working from home, and, what they don't want to be that bad, person or that bad boss that says, okay, we have this hub, this amazing space, we want you guys to start coming in. Nobody wants to force their employees to, change up their current situation, because we're in a pandemic. And so that's the challenge that I'm having right now. What used to be so easy to me, in conversation, in selling, in creating experiences, everyone is coming up with objections that are very challenging to overcome. And another part of this challenge is not taking it personally.
Right.
You know, and that has been a challenge for me, because I'm second guessing my talents, and I'm second guessing, what I'm good at. I'm second guessing, my interpersonal skills, my relationship skills, my solution skills, my, all of it. And it's a constant challenge to remind myself that this is
Pandemic.
this is not a
We're
normal time. This is not a normal time. And if someone says no to me, don't take it personal. It has nothing to do with me.
And it's hard because you're just like, wait, how in the heck? It's like, because I know the feeling. I mean, same here. It's like, obviously, I curate events for a living. So it's hard to kind of like convince folks, well, hey, this is weird. Why don't you guys want to do this? And understanding that like we're in a panorama, and like it's just the way it works right now. But it's still annoying as hell. um, thinking about that, looking at everything you've done, what do you think you'd tell 25-year-old Susanna?
Um, I would probably tell 25-year-old Susanna, um, to to take care of yourself more, and to make sure that you always make your self-care a priority. In my 20s, I definitely did that. And I feel like that, I kind of fell out of that, 10 years later, 15 years-ish later. And it's definitely something that I have to remember that, health is wealth. And if I don't feel good, I don't think that I am putting my best foot forward all the time. So just taking care of myself, and that's from physical to mental to stress relief. Like, take those moments to really say, you know what, I'm done working for the day. I'm taking 30 minutes to just take a walk, you know. Yeah, I think that's what's really important for sure.
It's so important. I think we all forget that and be like, oh wait, no, I don't have to take care of myself. Like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, no, like, that is not how this works. You have to take care of yourself. You have to. Speaking of which, since it is crazy, we are in COVID, there's snow on the ground. What in the world are you doing for your self-care other than cooking amazing stuff and putting on Instagram, which I love?
Yeah, cooking, who knew? Cooking, who knew? That has definitely been a discovery. I think, like a lot of women, you don't really spend so much time cooking when you are working all the time. And thank God for YouTube and videos. I think cooking has been a really good tool for me. And also, honestly, just like walking, like just getting out and just walking. Like, I really enjoy getting some fresh air, especially wearing this mask all the time. Um, and it's amazing when you take walks um, in the opposite paths of where you normally walk, So it also allows you to discover new things in your neighborhood, which I love.
Well, that's the thing. That's one of my favorite things about like just finding all the stuff that's new. Like, I started my bike adventures this summer, and like that led me to learn about there's a lighthouse in New York City. Who knew? And like, and you kind of fall in love with New York all over again because of all the things you can discover. So I think that's, I totally agree with you, my darling.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Can you repeat that question?
Oh, do you have a give or an ask of the audience? So this can be anything from like, here's a great book I read, to everyone take some time to meditate. It can be anything you want.
I would love an ask. I would love to know what, especially Black women, I want to know, what are you reading these days in the self-help section? Not in fiction, not, autobiographies, but in the self-help section, like within the last 6 months. I would love to know.
All right. So we'll put that out to the audience. Like, what are you reading in self-help, especially if you're a Black woman? We want to know what you're reading, what you're consuming. I haven't read a self-help book in a while. I tend to listen to podcasts that make me laugh. That's my version of self-help. It kind of takes me away from the foolishness. But so I'm curious myself to see what folks come back with you. So we'll see what the audience says. But Susanna, obviously I could just keep chatting with you and drinking. But but we cannot. But it's such a delight to have you on the show and sharing your story. I think you just have so many great nuggets of wisdom and how folks can find their way and navigate through it all with such grace and style. So it's
I hope it was
a delight
helpful. I felt like I just like rambled on and on. So I hope it was helpful.
It was totally awesome. You're good. And so we'll put details in the show notes for folks to check out Soho Works, check you out, and have a chance if you want to talk to her. As I said, I love Soho Works. It's been a wonderful new home in this really unusual set of circumstances with COVID to be COVID safe, wear your mask indoors, sit in very comfortable chairs and just get some work done and meet some really cool people, all still wearing a mask, and helping to foster some new communities. So it's a delight. And that is our show.